All right, I'm currently on the phone with Raven. He's another musician that reached out about the current interview session. So I'm going to go ahead and give him the chance to introduce himself.
Hey, everybody, this is Raven Gleason, lead singer and songwriter for Groovenberger.
Awesome. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate you taking the time. So these interviews are always kind of geared towards kind of figuring out how somebody became a musician. So tell me about what the environment was like growing up for you that kind of steered you in the direction that made you want to pursue music.
I think, early on in my younger and like pre or grade school, I was pushed to kind of try out in choir and by a couple different teachers who were really nice. And I was in choir for a couple of years and really enjoyed it. And then somewhere in junior high, I got asked to sing for a band, which I was pretty shy back then. And I was just kind of like, I don't know if my voice is good enough for that. But that's kind of where it all started with just friends asking me to sing for their band and grew on to eventually having a couple of really good guys that I jammed with in my 20s.
Okay, so you mentioned doing choir in school. Was that something that you kind of just stumbled into, or did your parents kind of suggest you go that way, or how did that initial spark happen?
In grade school, everybody got the teacher and a piano, and they'd ask you to sing the Star Spangled Banner. And from there, they just told you, hey, we want you to join choir. And I was like, okay. So it was one of the first extracurricular activities I actually took up. But after that, my parents, they influenced me by, taking me to church and when I went and, sing along. So that was basically how it got started.
Okay, and then somewhere along the lines, you felt a draw to it. It resonated with the personality that you had.
Oh yeah! As soon as I started listening to the albums, AC/DC, Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, all that stuff back then, I was just like hooked. It was like, yes, this is the music I want to listen to. My mom and dad were. I grew up on folk and blues and John Denver and Jim Croce, stuff like that. So when I got influenced by rock and roll, it was just game on. So it's something I loved, very passionate.
Okay, cool. So do you feel like that also kind of came in tandem with starting to write lyrics as well, or did that come later? Tell me a bit about how that developed.
That kind of came later in life. I never was really good at social studies and writing and that kind of stuff. I was more of a math and art guy. So I was just basically back then I was just doing everybody's covers, doing Guns N' Roses, Metallica, Megadeth. And that was, early high school days when I really started taking the band seriously.
Okay, so you mentioned that after high school, you kind of started playing more with some of your friends and making bands and stuff like that. Was that kind of just playing around doing covers, or did you guys kind of set out to be a little bit more creative and originally with it?
It was the 80s, so we were all into girls and partying, and the covers were what we were doing. I really, nobody ever thought of doing an original song. We had so much fun doing what we were doing at the time that it never really crossed our mind back then. And I just don't think I was in the mindset. I was pretty young. I was tattooing. I was living life, having a good time.
Okay, cool. So tell me about how that progressed then. The way you kind of phrase it makes it seem like you went through a couple different bands that were kind of like that. So correct me if I'm wrong, but then eventually, yeah. Okay. And then eventually you kind of set out to do something a little bit more, original and create it from like what you wanted to do.
So, in the junior high years, I probably went maybe 2 or 3 different people's bands, friends' bands that had me come over, and it was never really anything serious. We'd practice at different places. I don't even recall if I ever did any shows. It was just getting together with people and jamming. And then when I got together with my friends in high school, those guys were serious, and it was like we were jamming at our parties, we were jamming at everybody else's parties, having a good time with the covers, and the original stuff just kind of came after. I had a family, and when I was around 27, and did that for 20 years. So I hadn't even considered, because the band kind of dropped off and everybody went their separate ways, moved out of state. Good guys. I still talk to my guitar player, and he's very supportive about what I'm doing now. But yeah, it wasn't until after the whole raising a family and needing something to do. My ex and I, we split, so I was on my own and I needed stuff to do. So I decided to get back into my art, and I started sculpting, and I took that very serious. And then just by chance, one of my friends had a basement band. Guys get together and practice every week, and I'd go over there, and I asked if I could sing a couple songs, and from there it went from a couple songs to, hey, let's go up to an open mic. Okay, so I did that, checked it out, and I'm like, I can do this. And then right off the bat, I got into another band, and they were like, we want you to write originals. And I'm like, I never have done that, but I'll give it a shot. And at that time, I had been writing poetry a little bit. My grandmother was a poet her whole life, and don't know if I got any of that from her or what, but it started out real rough. I mean, I've been around music all my life. We've been listening to it all our lives. We know how songs are structured. You know how poems are structured. It's kind of the same thing. You have a verse and a chorus and a pause or an interlude or whatever. And so I wrote a few songs with this first band about 5 years ago, I want to say. And they weren't bad. I wouldn't call them great, but they weren't bad. But I walked away from that experience having about 12 different songs, just lyrics themselves, not actual music, but just the songs ready to go, and no music. So that's kind of when I started picking up guitar and saying, well, I got to write my own music then.
Okay, so at some point there was the motivation for you to actually start doing the instrumentals as well. How did you find that process of taking your lyrics and trying to put music to them?
For me, it's harder to put the music to the lyrics right now, just because I'm still pretty green on the guitar. But if I'm playing or practicing guitar and I come across a little cool riff that I did or something, sometimes the lyrics or the melodies just pop in my head. I'm lucky that I got a really good guitar player now, and he's so versatile, and he's got such good original riffs, and it's just beautiful, the stuff he plays. And when he starts, he's like, okay, here's this. And I'm like, all right, I either got something for him within 5 minutes, or for the most part, it'd take me a couple days, but there's been a couple that are a little harder, and I have to sit and think about it. It's different for every single song, and I'm still sitting on a bunch of lyrics. I think every songwriter has that kind of stuff. You got a notebook full of stuff, and you're just waiting for that guitar player or me to come up with that riff that just fits perfect.
Okay, so you sort of made reference there about what you are working on now. So let's talk about Groove and Burger. Tell me about how that came together and then where you're kind of going with that.
Sure. We actually met up at Route 47 at the open mic. I had gone out onto the smoking lounge to talk to some friends, and this showcase band came on, and I was like blown away by the music. And I went back in, and I'm looking, and I'm going, oh, okay. And I just had to go talk to him when the showcase was over. And I was like, hey, thought you guys were great. And they were like, did you sing that Megadeth song? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, you're really good. You want to be our singer? And I'm like, isn't that your singer like 10 feet away from you? And he's like, yeah, well, things happen. And I actually met up with them 2 weeks later. They gave me some of their old material, told me to sing it. I was like, okay. Gave it a good shot. I told him right off the bat, I'm not the same type of singer as your last guy, but I do sing my own voice pretty good. And then I didn't hear from him for like a year, and then they called me up out of the blue, said we're starting all from scratch. And I went, okay, count me in. And from there, it was just wow. They handed me 4 songs. I came back 2 weeks later. I had lyrics for him. I was really happy, and that was actually the first time I sat down and recorded anything for the first time. So it's been a process. I've been learning. These guys have taught me a lot. So It's been a fun time, and we actually have an album's plus right now worth of music that we're ready to put out there.
Okay, so how long ago would you say that call came in for it? It's time to start again.
Yeah, from Groovenberger. Yeah,
Yeah,
about
yeah.
it was about 2.5 years, I want to say, but no.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's been about 2.5 years that you've been working on the material for your upcoming album.
Yeah, it was that first 8 months was really hard because we didn't have a drummer. We had a good friend that set down some tracks, and he's one of those birds that flies south for the winter and comes back up. So, and he's also got his own project going on. Really good guy. He's actually the drummer for Cowboys from Hell, Pantera tribute band.
Yeah,
And
there's definitely a drummer drought in Minneapolis for sure.
yes, but I was lucky enough to come across this young gentleman, and he's 24, and he's got his dad's a musician. He's got this great background in jazz and R&B and all this stuff, and he just loves the groove that Groovenberger actually has. It's not just hard and heavy rock and roll. It's actually got stuff you can kind of move to, which I love. It's not just hardcore, in your face, I don't get it, but our stuff is fun to listen to, man. But we've got some hearts, and that's the cool thing is every song is got a different feel to it. It's not just like we got two really good songs and then the rest kind of sound like those two, but they're not really that song, and so it makes it fun. It really does. And I'm so excited that we're going to be putting this out here real quick. And it's been a little journey because we did all the recording ourselves, all the mixing ourselves. And now I'm in the final stages of just getting everything together so we can get it out and put it on CD and get it out there for everybody to hear.
Yeah, that's awesome. So where do you kind of see this all going in, like, a couple years to 5 years or so?
It's still early on. Me and the guitar players and everybody would just like to keep writing. I think we just got to get past this, get the first one album out there, and then they're going to come a lot easier. I think the first one for any band is kind of like biting nails, and I want it to be perfect, and I don't want to just put garbage out there.
All right. Well, where can people find Groovenberger and check you guys out?
Well, you can find us on social media on Facebook right now, just at Groovenberger. That's spelled Gruvenberger. And they have a Facebook page. I'm probably going to start an Instagram page here pretty soon for us, and probably have our drummer, since he knows all about the other apps that everybody goes on, have him start opening up some more on different social media platforms. And we got to get a web page too. I mean, that every band that wants to, get out there and do gigs, you got to have a web page. And I'm finding that out real quick from everybody I talk to, which I got to say, everybody that I've talked to so far has been real helpful. It's not easy just going into this and going, okay, we got music. Now we got to get gigs. It's not as easy as that. You got to consider how much time you got. Original bands are going to have it a lot harder than cover and tribute bands, because that's what everybody wants to hear, is stuff they grew up on. It's hard to get an audience that will sit still, but we've had great feedback. Everybody that's listened to us play so far and at live has just been like blown away. They're like, wow, you guys, you got something. And we feel the same. We feel the same way about it. So.
Speaking of live, you guys have a show coming up for one of our local legends in the Minneapolis music scene's birthday, Tempest Crane.
Yes, it's going to be a great show. I was very honored to be asked, and she's helped put a lot of bands out there, and she's loves it every time we come and play at Club Underground, and I'm just hope we blow everybody away there. We got a few bands there with some years under their belts, so it's gonna be great. I'm having all my friends definitely make it, so. And that'll be on July 11th at the Skyway Studio B.
Oh, perfect. All right. So I always like to give the person I'm interviewing the opportunity to put out their final words. So what's a message that you have that you want to share with other people?
Just be open-minded. If you're new to the scene, ask questions. All the musicians that I've dealt with so far have been really good. We're all learning. Don't be a dick. If you think you're greater than anybody else, you're probably not. It's be humble, work hard, dream big, go big. Just same with my art.